I think everything's going. That thing's going?
Yeah. You're going?
That's going?
You're going?
This is going?
I'm going.
I can see your voice. I can see my voice.
Let's fucking punch it.
All right.
To Spooptown, USA.
Spooptown, USA, episode 2/episode 5.
Hell yeah.
Sunday Spoops is back.
Sunday Spoops, and then Sunday self-care after that.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
So Sundays are supposed to be our self-care day where we, put on nice masks or
like
watch nice
mask.
movies or
Floss your teeth.
That's a Sunday thing?
I don't know. It's like every day.
Floss. Listen to your dentist. You only get one pair of teeth.
That's right.
What did the dentist say to me? Teeth are jewels, not tools.
That's right.
Got to take care of your teethers.
As Kathy would say. I paid a lot of money for those teeth.
So we're going to read some scary stories. They're going to be shorter this time because I think you've got a couple short ones. I've got a couple short ones. I've got one long-ish one, and then I'm going to tell my own personal.
I'll tell mine, too. It's kind of dumb, though.
Scary story. Well, like I was telling Lindsey before the podcast, I think that it's only going to be scary for me, but that's fine.
Mine's not really scary.
Actually,
Supernatural?
I kind of have two.
Okay.
One's shorter than the other one. And remember that this is coming from, the memory of, a child.
Sure, mine too.
So who knows how much of it I'm making up or it was a nightmare that I'm remembering.
Right.
Who knows? But anyways, welcome back to the podcast, episode 5, Sunday Spoops. We're going to do it again. So the first story I've got, again, I'll be crediting everybody. It'll be down in the description of the podcast, podcast notes, all that kind of stuff. So it's from Reddit. It's on No Sleep. It's by user Flard.
Okay, love it.
It is the top-rated story of all time on No Sleep. And it's called She Sold Happiness in Glass Jars.
I read this one.
You did?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I almost said it last week.
Okay. So it's not really scary. It's more mildly upsetting with that's the twist at the end.
This is a good one though.
Okay. So the poster read Happiness Sold in Glass Jars. Call today. And underneath the text was a phone number. I was walking home from a long, exhausting day at work when I caught a glimpse of the paper stapled on an old telephone pole. I took a picture of it thinking it was amusing. I was going to show my wife once I got back to our apartment, but I was caught up in chores and forgot about it. Dinner, dishes, laundry, packing up a snack for our daughter, putting her to bed, and then putting her toys away that she had left out in the living room. Every night, it was the exact same routine. The next day, I awoke sleeping back to back with my wife. I always had to get up earlier than she did for my job, so I quietly got ready for the day and headed out the door. At work, I was updating the company's latest expense report. Most days were similar to this one. They were basically paying me to stare at a computer for 9 hours a day and input a couple numbers into a spreadsheet. I finished my work very quickly, so I decided to head out of the office early, and it also helped that it was Friday, and a lot of people leave early at the end of the week.
Sure.
On my walk back, I was thinking of what my life had become. I did this often. I always dreamed, I feel like it should be dreamt. I always dreamed of traveling. Always dreamt of I don't know.
I'm no English teacher.
Right, yeah. I'll leave that one be. I'm sure I'll hear about how I was wrong. I always dreamed of traveling when I was younger. I wanted to travel across the country or solo backpack across Europe when I met Kelsey. Don't get me wrong. I loved Kelsey. I mean, I still do. We just don't have that spark anymore. When you meet someone and get in a relationship, whether it's meant to be or not, some of your personal plans have to be put on hold. And that relationship turns to marriage, and then you have a baby. Then you have to enroll your daughter in preschool, and then you have to get a better paying job and work more hours, blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to throw a pity party for myself. I'm just saying I wasn't exactly content with where I was in my life. I wouldn't refer to myself as a happy person. As I took the same route home that I did every day to work and back, I walked by the same poster I had passed the day before. I don't know why, I really don't, but I decided to call the number. I figured it would be some joke, maybe someone that picks up the phone and says, "I love you," and on the other end and hangs up. Or maybe it's a line to a sex worker. I had no idea what to expect. I called and only rang once before someone picked up. "Hello?" a woman said. "Hi. I'm calling about the poster, your ad." "Oh, awesome," she said calmly. "When do you want to pick it up?" Pick what up? The jar, she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Oh, of course. I realized then that I had left work early without telling Kelsey, so I could just pick it up now and she'd never be the wiser. What exactly is it that you're selling? I just told you it's happiness in a glass jar, like the poster said. Happiness keeps the best in glass jars. They're more durable than a plastic bag. Okay. Should we meet somewhere? For sure. I don't want you to end up being a creep or something, so let's meet in a public place.
Sure, naturally.
Yeah, like any good Craigslist do. The public place we decided on was Starbucks. It was a Starbucks parking lot a little over a mile from me. Now, I don't think I was really going to be buying a jar of happiness or whatever. I was 99% sure she was going to sell me drugs. Maybe heroin would be in that jar. I remember thinking, oh, happiness. It's probably a nickname for some street drug, and I'm going into a drug deal. What if she's a cop? Am I going to get arrested? But something inside me kept me walking, so I did. I stood outside and texted her. I'm here. Cool. Be there in a sec. What are you driving? Silver Camry. And as her final text came through, I saw her car pull in. She took a spot. Don't text and drive.
I was going to say, don't text and drive.
That's bad. Don't do that. She took a spot not too far from where I stood, and I could see there that there was no one else in the car, which put the kidnapping fears to rest. She opened her door and stood on the pavement, looking around until her eyes met mine. I gave her a little nod of acknowledgement, and she simply responded by waving her hand, gesturing me to come over to the car. So I did. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with curly golden hair. Her skin was pale and contrasted with the dark outfit she was wearing. I thought she looked like Glinda, the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz, and put on the Wicked Witch's clothes. Nice day out, she said as a greeting. Oh, yeah, it is. Hadn't really paid much attention to it. You were the one that called about the jar, right? Yep, that was me. Cool, well, here you go. She handed me a very small glass mason jar. Couldn't have been more than 2 inches tall. Inside was a light. Not a light bulb, just a light. It was like someone bottled up sunshine, and it glowed even in the mid-afternoon daylight. It looked like a tiny sun, or a tiny universe existing in a little crystal-walled home. I was admiring it with no attempt to hide the awe in my face. Pretty rad, isn't it? What is it? You've asked that like 3 different times. I think my answer is still the same. It is happiness. Happiness in a jar. What do I do with it? Keep it, she said simply. If you have any problems, just shoot me a text. She started to get into the car. Wait, I said, I thought you were selling this. How much is it? Don't worry, man, she said with a smile. You'll pay. Thanks. She closed her door, and I stepped out of her way as she backed up and then drove off. What the hell just happened? What was I holding? I looked down at the jar again. Its radiance was simply mesmerizing. I put it in my pocket and could see it glow slightly through my pants.
Hello? In the daytime?
Yeah.
Yay!
Hey. Ooh. I began to walk home. Kelsey didn't marry him for no reason.
That's right. You got glowing dick.
I mean, just a glow in the pants is perfectly adequate there.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, what was just a nice sunny day quickly changed into a rainy one with clouds wrapping around the sky. It was not forecasted that it would rain, or else I would have ridden the bus or the subway to work. I jogged home trying not to get drenched. I finally found shelter once I made it to the apartment building. I walked up to my door and found the key wasn't on my keyring anymore. Shit. I can't believe I lost it again, I thought. I knocked on the door and said in a somewhat loud voice, "Hey babe, it's me. I don't know what happened to my key. I heard the door being unlocked from the other side. When the door opened, I was greeted by a large, heavy-set man with greasy hair and an unkempt goatee. He said, "I think you got the wrong door, bud." "Oh," I said, disoriented. "My bad. Sorry. Have a good one." He let out a chuckle and then closed the door. Apartment number 33. I know that was my apartment. I know it was. I've been in apartment 33 for 5 years, but that was not my apartment. Mm-hmm. From what I could see on the inside, all the furniture was different, and it was painted a different color. It was all wrong. It felt like I had hit my head and was drugged. In that moment, nothing made sense. I pulled out my phone to call Kelsey so she could calm me down and tell me that I was confused for a second. But her contact wasn't in my phone. In fact, nothing was in my phone. I had no messages with her, no previous calls, no pictures. It was like the phone reset to factory settings. Did that girl somehow switch my phone out when I wasn't looking? I would have just dialed Kelsey's number manually, but I couldn't quite remember it. I had known it by heart before, but not anymore. I needed to get back to the office. I had all my contacts backed up on my work computer. Since it was still raining, I hopped on the bus, which had stopped right in front of the apartment complex. I rode downtown toward the office, the whole time staring at my wet shoes, wondering what the hell was going on. We have a key card access to our building, so only authorized personnel could get inside. I always keep my access card in my wallet, always. But surprise, surprise, it wasn't there. I buzzed into the speaker we had for guests with appointments or employees as a backup in case anyone forgot their card. Buzzed. I have to say that. It's in the story.
Good sound effect.
Good sound work.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is Tim. I must have lost my card. My employee number is... I stopped and drew back. A voice came through the speaker. Tim, you cut out there. What's your employee number? I can't remember. That's fine. Just tell me your full name and department. Finance? I'm in finance. My full name is Tim Brooks. One sec. About 30 seconds later, the man spoke up again. We don't have a Tim Brooks working in this building. Do you have an appointment with someone? I backed up surprised, almost tripping over my own feet. I had just been in that office an hour or two ago. What was happening to me? I felt like I was getting Alzheimer's, but going through this every stage in one day. I stared at my hands, unsure if I was in the right body. I felt like the world around me was disintegrating. I wasn't in control. I was merely sitting inside someone else's head, watching the world through their eyes. Just then, I got a text. I recognized the number immediately. It was that girl, the one that gave me the jar. I'd forgotten all about it until I saw her text. Hey, how's it going? I looked at my phone dumbfounded. It made me angry she was so nonchalant about it. She knew what was going on. She had done this somehow.
Witch.
She's a witch. You said she was a witch.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell did you do to me? The worst is yet to come. I was astronomically close to just chucking my phone as far as I could out of frustration. I took the jar out of my pocket. It looked unchanged. It was still glowing just as bright. What the fuck did you do? I yelled at the jar, realizing I probably looked like a lunatic. As I stared at the glistening jar, I realized something. I didn't know what my wife's face looked like anymore. I knew her name. Well, I know it started with a K. Or maybe a C? I couldn't picture her in my mind. I know I had a wife. I knew I did. Yes, because I have a daughter. No, I had a wife and a daughter? I just couldn't remember their faces anymore, or their names, or their birthdays, or any memories I had with them. I know they existed. They did exist. I had just seen them this morning, right? I couldn't remember how she looked, or what she smelled like, or our first date. We had a wedding, right? What about our first kiss, or our daughter? Or was it a son? Maybe I didn't even have a kid, but my wife or girlfriend, she was real. I knew she was. The thought was tearing me apart. I couldn't see her in my head. I couldn't recall a single fact about her. I was standing outside the same building, but I was unsure why I did. Did I work there? I must have worked somewhere. The rain was accompanied by a chilly wind now. It was whipping at my face, making my nose and cheeks sting. I wanted to go home. I wanted to be with her. I wanted to be warm. I wanted to go into my shitty office building that kept a roof over my head. I wanted it all. I was soaking wet. I was miserable. I couldn't remember my parents or my childhood. Did I even have any friends? Why was I in the rain? I looked down at my hand. I was clutching the jar. The only memory of my entire life I concretely remembered was the girl giving it to me, telling me it was happiness. It did not bring happiness. It brought pain. It brought suffering. I was more miserable in that moment than I had ever been. My phone buzzed. Break the jar, Tim. I looked at my other hand with the setting sun and rainy sky. I swear the jar was brighter than the street light near me. I didn't break it because I was following her instruction. I broke it because I was angry. I broke it because I was upset. I needed a release. I raised my arm above my head and brought it down in one swift motion, shattering the jar on the concrete beneath my feet. The dark, chilly air accompanying the rain spread away like a shockwave or like a bomb going off. And I was in the epicenter. I saw the warm yellow light from the inside of the jar spread rapidly across the ground and ascend into the sky. It was as if I was watching the beginning of the universe being created, like God had just snapped his fingers and said, "Let there be light." I was engulfed in it. I could no longer see the street or the rain or anything dark. I felt like I was plummeting into the star, going faster than the speed of light. It felt like sitting in front of a fire on a cold winter's night, but the warmth was covering every inch of my body. And then I blinked. Immediately I could feel the sheets behind me and my back barely touching my wife's. I was staring out the window. The morning light drenched through the glass and gleamed on my face. I stood from the bed and grabbed my phone. It was Friday morning. I had one text. "Let me know if you ever need another jar." I called in sick from work that day. I snuck into my daughter's room and greeted her with a kiss and told her that she didn't have to go to preschool today. We were going to have a family day. She smiled and stretched out her arms and yawned before curling up and falling back asleep. I got back into bed, squeezed my wife tightly, and didn't let go for hours. Our daughter came into our room and woke us up eventually. She was jumping on the bed and shouting for us to wake up. Yesterday I may have found that annoying. Yesterday I may have found those things annoying or monotonous or dull. But not today. Today I pulled her underneath the covers between me and Kelsey. Today it was going to be a good day. Today I was happy.
Yay!
Yay! What a good story.
That was a good one.
Not really scary, just kind of more like upsetting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my story.
I liked it.
Golf claps for
Golf
my
clap.
story.
Okay. You ready for mine?
I'm ready.
It's not very long at all. So this one's called The Chair. I found it on Reddit. It's by Scoop Whoop.
Scoop whoop.
Scoop Whoop. Okay. So, when my sister Betsy and I were kids, our family lived for a while in a charming old farmhouse. We loved exploring its dusty corners and climbing the apple tree in the backyard. But our favorite thing was the ghost. We called her Mother because she seemed so kind and nurturing. Some mornings, Betsy and I would wake up, and on each of our nightstands, we'd find a cup that hadn't been there the night before. Mother had left them there, worried we'd get thirsty during the night. She just wanted to take care of us. Among the home's original furnishings was an antique wooden chair that we would keep against the back living room wall. Whenever we were preoccupied watching TV or playing a game, Mother would inch the chair forward across the room towards us. Sometimes she'd manage to move it all the way to the center of the room. We always felt sad putting it back against the wall. Mother just wanted to be near us. Years later, long after we'd moved out, I found an old newspaper article about the farmhouse's original occupant, a widow. She'd murdered her 2 children by giving them each a poisoned milk before bed. Then she hung herself. The article included a photo of the farmhouse's living room with a woman's body hanging from a beam.
Jesus.
Beneath her, knocked over, was that old wooden chair placed exactly in the center of the room.
Oh, I don't like that. Oh.
Willies.
Oh, good.
Isn't that going good?
Yeah, that was good. I
That was
like
scary.
it, though. I don't like that. Nope, not my thing.
Good job, Scoop Whoop.
Scoop whoop.
Like, how crazy. You just thought she was being nice and she's just trying to kill you.
See, I feel like those are the more effective stories, right? Because they're like, they give you enough context of like what's going on,
But not too much.
but not like this long drawn out story just to give you like a one line finish. Where like that one's short enough that like they just hit you with like and that was the chair, and you're like, oh shit, like that. Those are the good ones. Okay, I'm gonna read you one of my short ones, and I'll let you read another one.
Okay.
And it's so short that in fact I think it's like 3 or 4 sentences.
Okay.
But it gave me the chillies when I read it.
All right.
It's called "The Dog Who Sees Spirits."
Okay. I haven't heard this one.
My dog has a nasty habit of scratching on the door in the middle of the night. One evening, she wouldn't stop scratching at the door for any reason. After calling her 5 times, I threw a pillow towards the door to make her stop. That's when she barked from right beside me. She had been next to me the whole time. Ooh, ooh.
That's a good one.
Just some
That's a
shit
good one.
scratching
That's
at
a
your
good one.
door. Go, no. Oh, because you can like that's one of those stories that like I think maybe because of the scratching you can kind of like imagine what that noise sounds like.
Yeah.
And then you kind of like put yourself into that spot
Right.
of like you're laying in your bed and you hear like at your back door and you're like, fuck guys, just go back to bed, stop. And then you like get mad and throw something at the door and then the dogs are like, what the fuck was that? Woo,
Because I remember I heard this on a podcast, I think. I don't have any other info than that. That this woman she let her dog out, backyard, closed the door, and then she heard scratching. And for some reason, she looked through the peephole, and it was a man scratching at her door to make her think it was the dog.
Where was the dog?
They let out of the fence.
Oh, that's fucked up.
I mean, I think she got the dog back.
Oh, okay.
But, like, the scary part was this man was
I mean, yes, that's scary, but, like, what about the dog, though?
No dogs are harmed in the
making of that story?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got one other, like, short-ish one. I'm trying to remember which one it was called.
I have a short one and a longer one.
I didn't go down that far. I don't remember what the story was called. Oh, yeah, this is it.
Okay.
It's just called The Haunted Building. I worked in an old building that was built in 1929. The space was closed for at least 20 years before we moved in because the previous owner had killed his wife and then himself. Okay. We moved in 2 months ago, and almost every day at exactly 12:08 p.m., the bell of the front door rings. But there's never anyone there. We've looked at the security recordings and everything, and there's never anyone there. The other day, I was alone in the office late in the evening. I was on my way out, so I turned off all the lights, closed the windows, and activated the alarm. When I turned to close the door, the kitchen light was on, even though I had just turned it off. Another time, I had arrived in the morning, and the light in the main room turned itself off. I even heard the sound of the switch flipping. The last straw was when I saw someone else's face next to mine in the reflection of my computer screen.
No.
There was no one there when I turned around. I decided to talk these things through with the building manager's wife, who's lived in the building for 7 years. She assured me that it was actually pretty quiet in the building these days and that there used to be a lot more strange occurrences, and at least now she can take the elevator by herself. I just laughed nervously. Nope, because like the computer screen thing like was the thing that did it for me. Because I mean, obviously, I'm like staring at screens all day,
right?
And so I just had that thought of like you're doing something, and then you just see like that faint outline of someone's face, like not clearly defined.
Like you see something that's not the screen, and you're like, "Oh, what's that?" And you're like, "That's someone else's face." Yo,
yo.
That was scary, huh, bud?
Okay. You got another one?
Mm-hmm. I got two. Okay. A few weeks ago, my girlfriend and I were sleeping together when I woke up to her saying, "What are you doing?" She sometimes talks in her sleep, but this sounded so coherent and urgent, it jolted me awake, and I asked what she was talking about. She then woke up and said she thought she saw someone at the end of the bed. Thinking it was just a dream or a semi-awake hallucination, we thought nothing of it and went back to sleep. About an hour later, I woke up and saw someone standing on the bed with the sheets wrapped around and twisted up on her neck. I didn't know what to do, but the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "What are you doing?" My girlfriend then woke me up. I had been dreaming the exact same thing that she did and said the exact same thing. I know it's the power of suggestion or whatever, but fuck that. That was by Orange Derps.
That makes me think of Haunting of Hill House.
Oh, or your night terror the other night.
The bent neck lady?
Uh-huh.
Ugh. Yeah, the night terror that I don't remember.
Yeah. Because we were sleeping, and all of a sudden, he, like, jumped up and, like, turned on his side and was, like, moving his arms around and was like, no. I don't even remember what you said, but it was fucking creepy. And then I was just like, it's okay. And
you said I was, like, shaking.
Yeah,
I was, like, clammy
you
and
were
cold.
ice cold. You had hard goosebumps. Like, you were in the freezer for days. Like, Antarctica type of stuff.
Nope.
Like, you were clammy, and I didn't like it.
Nope, don't remember not a bit of that. None of it.
So, that was fun for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to bed now.
Yeah, I just, like, I remember waking up, and she was, like, snuggled up to me, and I was like, oh, this is nice, and then just went back to sleep.
Nothing scary.
No recollection of anything scary.
Shit. Do you have another one?
I don't have another story, but I'll tell what I'll say is my scary story.
Okay.
I'll leave it up to everybody else to determine if it's scary or not.
Okay.
So, my grandpa on my mom's side, we call him Papa. When we were kids, like his favorite thing to do, of course, like the fun thing to do with kids especially around Halloween, is to try and scare them, right? So he wanted to go what he called spook hunting.
I remember this story.
So it was like, and as kids, you're like, no, we're not doing that. Oh, whatever.
No.
Right. And then I guess like me and my cousins must have been feeling brave because we were like, all right, let's go, let's do it. And it was me and two of my cousins. Each of them is like 1 year older than I am. So I want to say at the time I was maybe 9 or 10.
Were you about 8 years old?
Nope, I wasn't about 8 years old. It was like 9 or 10.
Okay.
Because I want to say that it was like 10, 11, 12 or 9, 10, 11, something like that. But it was like that was about the age range that we were in. So, like I said, child's memory. I don't know how accurate any of this shit is. So there's a place. I mean, there's one in every state, I think, but it's supposed to be Crybaby Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
The story is that like these women would take these kids to this bridge, throw them off the bridge. And then you can hear the children crying on midnight on Halloween or whatever.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's like every night at a certain time. I don't remember the whole legend, but supposedly there's one in a park called Quail Hollow that's like not super far from us.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all in the car and it's like my grandpa and me and my two cousins and like it's dark out. I don't know where we're at. I have no like... I don't have a sense of direction.
Right, no spatial awareness as a 9-year-old.
Right. I'm just kind of like along for the ride. Like, hey, hopefully this doesn't get too scary, you know? And like, as we're driving along, like he's just pointing stuff out. And I think all of it was just to like get it like spooky shit in our head. Like just to really freak us out. Really just like turn that dial up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And so like we're going and then like up around this corner. Whoa. Up around this corner, he, points to this house and it's got like this blue flashing light in it, like a TV's on, right? Like, you know, whatever's on the TV.
No big deal.
And he goes, oh, that's the witch's house. And of course, as a bunch of kids were like, ooh, the witch.
No people.
And then I remember the blue light turning green, but it felt like it shot out of the house and then the car died. Flat dead.
It was the witch's house, yo.
It just, nothing. And my grandpa was a mechanic for many years. And he's turning the key, and the key's doing nothing. We can kind of start to see the panic in his eyes a little bit because the car's not starting, and that's not a part of the gag. So my cousin, who's older than me, had worked on cars and stuff with him, and like, so he got out of my grandpa got out of the car, pops the hood, is like tinkering under the hood, telling my cousin to try the key, whatever, and like we're in the middle of what is essentially nowhere. Well, then we realized that this fucking bridge is just so, like, stage left, just here. And they're trying to tell us to, like, get out of the car and, like, try and, like, flag cars down to, like, get somebody to help us. I'm in the backseat bawling my eyes out. There's no fucking way I'm getting out of this car.
No.
I don't care if zombies come.
Like, have you ever seen a horror film?
No, I'm not getting murdered out here.
Right.
And, finally, like, people are, you know, like, one or two cars drive by, and finally, like, somebody stops and jumps the car. Car starts, and again, we don't know why the car died. It happens after this weird light flashes out. And then he starts the car and then turns it around and drives the other way, like, going home. Well, we didn't know this, but the whole gag was supposed to be that up around that corner, all of my aunts and uncles were waiting for us to scare the shit out of us. We never got to that point.
Right.
He was over the gag at that point. That's what's scary, is like, nope, we're not doing this later, and just skirted off in the other direction. To this day, I swear that something happened. I don't know what it is. I don't know, like, it could all just be happenstance, but at 9 years old, it was fucking terrifying.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I remember I wrote that as a short story in, I don't know, third or fourth. How old would you? If I was 9, what grade were you in?
Third grade, I think.
So maybe it was fourth grade.
I think you're like 10 in fourth grade.
Yeah, something like that. And I remember like we had to write a short story at Halloween or whatever, and it was supposed to, it didn't have to be like horror necessarily, but it was supposed to be like spooky.
Yeah.
And so I just wrote that, and I remember like I got a bad grade on it because they said that it was like too extravagant or too like over the top. And
Please,
I was like,
it's Halloween.
nah, bitch, that was my life.
That was real life.
That happened.
Boo. It was the witch's house, yo.
I'm I wish I knew exactly where we were, because like there's that kind of morbid curiosity in my brain
To
that
go back. I want to go.
like that kind of wants to be like, that's the house.
Awesome. Spook me.
Spooked you.
So this is not my story, but what I'm going to read. It's by Dr. Elsewhere. It's called There's a Man in the Baby's Room.
Ooh, okay.
So many spooky stories are like baby monitor stories.
Yep.
And I'm like, B. That's why you don't get one on Wi-Fi. You don't get a picture. You just got to listen to that walkie-talkie.
Yeah, but what if there's a man's voice on the other end of that walkie-talkie?
Apparently them getting like crossed isn't uncommon. So
Yeah,
like you could hear your neighbors.
Well, you can hear your neighbors. Like there's like some CB radios and stuff that I know like share frequencies.
Yeah. Nope. Okay. So this one's a little longer. Okay.
Deep breath. Here we go.
It's odd that I was dreaming about my daughter the moment I opened my eyes and saw her peering at me from beside my nightstand. In the inky darkness of my bedroom, I could just make out her 6-year-old outline, her hands threaded together at her waist, fulfilling her dubious mine? Whatever. When disturbing someone of authority. Chubby cheeks had always pulled her lips into a smirk, and the blonde curly hair that she got from her mother, who was delicately snoring beside me. That's me. I delicately snore.
Yeah.
I was groggy and no sunlight had penetrated the windows yet, so I knew it must be the middle of the night. Lucy? Daddy, there's a man in the baby's room. Such sinister words from the sweetest voice.
No thank you.
In a flash, I ripped the covers from my body, waking my wife in the process, then raced down the hallway, past the pictures hung on the wall, and into the bedroom on the end.
I don't know why, but like I kind of pictured him like throwing the blankets off and then like going to kick out of the bed and just kicking this 6-year-old out of the way.
Okay, so past the pictures hung on the wall and into the bedroom on the end. With a simple flick of the switch, I was exposed to my 2-month-old son's room with mint-colored walls and boxes of gifted diapers from the baby shower, a basket full of plush animals, and a tub of pacifiers and wipes. From behind the crib where my son, Noah, was sleeping was something appalling, an intruder crawling through the window. The intruder craned his neck with the light blasted on and alerted him of my presence. It was then I noticed the knife. The man was large with greasy long hair and an unkempt beard. He smelled of body odor and a sour, putrid smell of vaporized drugs, which I don't know how that smells. Ah, you smell like putrid vaporized drugs. I don't know. That brought me out of the story a little bit.
That's the first thing that I've noticed about this man.
He stinks.
Was the vaporized drugs about him.
I leapt into action before he could achieve a sturdy footing or leverage the knife to his advantage.
He achieved his sturdy footing.
I skirted in the crib where my son still slept and removed a heavy bookend from the bookcase. Then, as an unsupported baby books tumbled off the shelf, I bludgeoned the intruder in the arms as he flailed and teetered on the windowsill. After the intruder took several missed swipes of the knife, my aim became more focused on his head. After my weapon made contact with his skull a few times, he withdrew into the backyard, lumbering away around our flower bed before hobbling over our fence and disappearing into the dark street. I picked up Noah, who thankfully was still sleeping and oblivious, and held him firmly against my chest. Hold on a second.
What 2-month-old baby is sleeping through a home invasion?
He probably cried for the last 6 hours. He had some milk, and he's like, I'm zonking out.
He finally fell asleep. They were like, oh, thank God, Noah finally went to sleep. And then fucking Lucy comes in the bedroom like, hey, there's a guy in the window, by the way.
There's a man out here.
And then you're like, ah, shit.
What's going on? Why is the window open? I heard my wife ask behind me as she came into Noah's room. Now our dogs are barking. Call 911 now. We just had an intruder. What? She laughed. Now, I demanded, loud enough to vocally project my fear, but unintentionally lift Noah from his slumber. She phoned the police as I flipped on every light switch in the house, especially the exterior ones, and cruised through the rooms with Noah on my hip, doing my best to calm him. It took 2 laps through the living room, but eventually he was calm enough for my wife and I to talk on the phone. Oh, to talk after her phone call. Will you tell me what happened? She asked. Yeah, sorry I yelled earlier. I was just emotional, you know. It's okay. What happened? Someone was trying to break into the house through Noah's room. I forgot to lock the window after we painted his room. Remember, we opened it for ventilation? I'm so sorry. Something could have... Stop it, my wife demanded. Noah's okay. You're okay. I'm okay. Everyone is fine. You're right. The police are on their way. They'll find the guy. He won't be hard to pick out of a lineup. Some drug-addled thief looking for a score. What made you wake up? Was Noah crying? I paused for a moment to consider, and then looked to my curious-eyed son. Yeah, Noah was crying. That was what woke me up. I feel terrible. I slept right through his crying fit. Don't worry. Everything turned out for the best. How about some coffee? She went to the kitchen, and I heard the coffee pot being washed. I took Noah into the hallway and propped his body up on my side so he was eye level with the photographs that lined the hallway. I showed my son a picture of a 6-year-old girl with blonde curls that flanked a grin between chubby cheeks. That's Lucy, Noah. She's your big sister. Noah, with tiny, stumpy fingers, reached out and planted his palm on the frame. I always knew she'd be a great sister. She died before you were born. Noah, your mother and I miss her every day. I know I'm going to cry, but it's good to know she's still looking out for her little brother. I couldn't get through that last paragraph.
Oh, Lucy.
Isn't that sweet?
It's sweet, but it's fucking terrifying too. I mean, I guess if it's your kid, it wouldn't really be scary, right? Yeah. You'd just be kind of like, oh, it's Lucy again. Are you crying because it's sad, or are you crying because it's scary?
It's sad.
Oh, okay.
Happy sad.
Happy sad?
And not cry.
Mm.
I just got water.
You just tear?
So did you, though?
I tear when I get, like, scared. Like, my eyes water. Like, that unwanted response of your body going, no.
I know, I got hot, too.
Okay, so my only other, like, and I'm sure I've got other scary stories, but my brain sucks, so... But this is the other one that, like, pops in my head when I think of scary stuff. So I have a ton of family that lives down in Virginia. It's where my grandpa's from. And that side of the family actually, like, pretty much runs this one area of town because there's so many of them. And a couple of family members live in a trailer park. It's kind of like off this dirt road in the middle of Virginia, backwoods kind of area. And of course, like, again, a bunch of us kids are like, we're not just going to hang around the house all day. It's summertime. We're on vacation. Mm-hmm. Let's just go run through the woods. So it was like my cousins that lived there, and then me and a couple of my cousins that were from up here. And we're just like running and playing through the woods. I don't know, tag, hide and seek, whatever. And I remember we ran across this area that was like a bunch of like stones piled up like in very neat rows. Hey, quit. Not right now.
To be a star.
There's a bunch of like neat little rows of stones and stuff. He cannot be like growling and breathing into the microphone. That cannot happen. Okay. She says as the noisiest dog ever to exist just sits in her lap. Okay, so
well, tell me your story. You were playing tag and shit.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you my story, but now I'm annoyed by the dog. So there was like all these rows of stones, and they were like piled on top of each other in like these neat little rows. And I remember my cousin saying, "Oh, this is an Indian burial ground," and I'm like, first of all, how the fuck would you know
right.
that?
You're just a shit kid,
right? But then like there was that kind of like strange arrangement of like these are very straight rows. They had like moss and stuff growing on them. There was like a bunch of like grass and stuff, not grass,
so
but
like they were
weeds.
there for a long time.
Yeah, like it wasn't like
they did it.
They set this shit up to scare us. And then of course they're like, don't mess with any of it because it'll upset the spirits.
Sure.
And so then of course, what do kids do?
Did you?
They start running over and like kicking over these piles of rocks.
Did you?
I might have flipped one or two. Well, so then like of course we don't think anything of it because we're just like, oh, it's a bunch of rocks.
Right.
I thought it was a joke. I thought whatever.
Guys.
You know, you're trying to prove how brave you are
right.
by like, yeah, fuck off. So then we go back to the house, we eat dinner. And then, of course, because we're, like, all hanging out together, it's like, oh, let's spend the night, you know? Like, this will be fun. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a fucking trailer. There's not a whole lot of fucking space in this place for, I don't know, like 6 kids.
Yeah.
So, like, we just made, like, pallets on the floor, like, just piles of blankets, and then, like, slept in those. So, like, the door is straight in front of me. The, like, only door to get in and out of the place. And I remember it had a screen door on the outside, and then it had, like, they had a big light on the outside. Fuck, I forgot to format the memory card. Anyways, so I'm sleeping on the floor, and there was a big street light, like, just outside of the trailer. So there was, like, a decent amount of light that was just always coming in. And, I don't do well sleeping with light, right? So, like, I either have to, like, cover my face or whatever. And I remember we're all sleeping on the floor, and it was like you could hear, like, cars and stuff going by. I don't know why it's saying there's no space in the card. I just deleted a whole fucking video off of there. Whatever. Well, whatever. I'm annoyed. I'm hot. So you can hear, like, cars and shit going by, and the story is fucking ruined by the dogs and the video not working now. But, and I remember, like, dead asleep and hearing not a knock, but, like, hearing somebody walk up to the door, and it was almost like the sound of bells. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, in a lot of Native American, like, cultures and stuff, they'll put bells on around their ankles or around their wrists, so that when they do, like, different ceremonies and dances and stuff, it, like, makes noise, right? And it was like it was almost weird, like Santa Claus, like, you hear the reindeer
like
bells, the sleigh bells, and it was like you just heard like a foot and the bells ringing. And then I looked up, and I don't know if this was a nightmare because of the day that we had or what, but you could see the outline of a headdress on the outside of the window, because there's that big ass bright light on the outside of the door. And then nothing, just a figure standing there, and then just went away, just gone. And I remember
they were looking for you.
And I remember not being able to sleep the rest of the fucking night. And I, to this day, don't know what the fuck any of that meant, but it happened.
Did anyone else hear it?
Well, of course, like, my first thought is, like, to wake everybody else up. But by the time I'd woken anybody else up, there was nothing there. And then they called me stupid because it was like, you didn't see shit. Yeah, so that happened.
I do remember, this jogged a lost memory. I had a birthday party. This is when we still lived, like, in the middle of nowhere, like, before I moved to civilization with cable.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a birthday party. And I don't remember, obviously, who was there, because I was young, like, before 4th grade is when this was. And all I remember is this one girl told us a story about how she had to stay hidden from her uncle. Like, her family had moved multiple times because her uncle was, like, stalking her, essentially.
That seems like some, like, protective custody. You weren't supposed to tell anybody that.
I mean, that's
kind of
what,
thing.
Like, you're just a group of young girls.
Right.
And, like, she just said it. I think I remember her being, like, a stranger person. But, like, obviously, if this is real, like, that's scary. So we're like, okay. And then I remember we all went to bed in the living room, and it had a big bay window. And, like, we lit no street lights. Like, we lived in Amish country. And I remember the middle of the night, like, this bang on the window. And I'm, like, laying there like, hello? Ooh, I just got chills telling the story. And I was like, no. I was trying to rationalize, like, it was a bird that flew in the window.
In the middle of the night?
Well, you know. And I'm like, this is her fucking uncle. And I don't remember if anyone else heard it. I don't remember if anyone else woke up. I was like, I know there's a bang on this window, and the couch, that gray couch that was in Mom's basement, was, like, backed up on it. And someone was sleeping on the couch. A couple people were sleeping on the floor.
And they didn't wake up?
I don't think so. They may have. I just don't remember. But I just remember that bang on the window and her telling that story about how her uncle was, like, stalking her.
No, thank you. That's all right.
And then the only other thing is not scary. Same house. Like, I remember Grandpa died, and they lived in the house next to us.
Mm-hmm.
He had, like, heart issues. But I remember he died, and then a couple nights after, I was laying in bed and looked up at the ceiling, and there was, like, a shadow. And all it was, like, there's, like, a head that you could see, and then, like, wings. And then, like, a body.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, there was nothing in my window, and I was on the second story. So it's not like there was anything standing outside
Right.
that looked like that. And I was like, oh, hi, Grandpa. I remember going to sleep, and I never saw it after that. But that just seems so specific to, like, I don't believe in angels and that shit, but that's what I saw.
Probably was an angel.
That was my spoopy story. Real life. Tell us your real life spoops below.
If you've got any.
Like, comment, subscribe.
All that stuff.
All that stuff.
Do the things. Ring the bell.
Even with our technical difficulties, you love us. We love you.
Fuck. I'm so mad.
Get spooked.
It was like when we started and I got like halfway through that first story, I went, did I format that card?
Nope.
And, well, I answered my own fucking question.
That's all right. Now we know.
It's not all right. I know better. And I'm just annoyed that I didn't do it.
Episode 3.
I need to buy more SD cards so that that's not a problem. Anyways, so I figured the last thing that we'd wrap up with is scary movie recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
The Visit.
The Visit?
Only because we looked at that list that reminded me of The Visit.
Spooky. What's scary about The Visit?
Everything. It's from what I remember in the short synopsis that we read before this started. These 2 kids go to stay at their grandparents' house, and Grandma is creepy.
Because she had, what, sundowners? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Where, like, at night she would just get, like, super weird.
Yeah.
But they were, like, told to not leave their bedroom at night because Grandma gets a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't listen.
Yeah, she does. It gets crazy. I don't want to give anything away.
Right. But there are some parts in that movie that will just, like, at least for me, is the shit that scares me.
Yeah.
The stuff that, like, really freaks me the fuck out.
Creepy things, creaky deaky people.
Yeah.
I don't like creaky deaky people.
Yeah. Like the little girl from The Ring.
Yeah. Or The Grudge, where she was like creaky deaky. No, the old man. Some movie, it was a creaky deaky old man crawling down the stairs, hands and knees. Grudge? Ring.
I don't know if it was. Maybe. I don't know.
Spooky movie.
I thought
creaky deaky old person.
Maybe it was The Grudge. Whatever.
It doesn't matter.
The
It was scary.
The girl from The Ring is the same thing.
Yeah.
Though, like when she crawls out of the well.
Yeah. Disjointed. I'm creaky and deaky. I don't know why I turned into a robot, but.
I am a robot and I am scary. The movie that probably scared me more than anything is The Conjuring.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching that entire movie from Lindsey's shoulder while we were at the movie theater. Yeah, that one really spooked me pretty good. But I would say like just really good like thriller movie, maybe not a horror movie, is The Invitation.
Mm-hmm.
Lindsey doesn't remember watching it because every time I talk about it, she's like,
We've never seen that.
We've never seen that. It's really good. It's on Netflix right now. Totally worth watching.
Mm-hmm.
Really good like thriller movie. Not I wouldn't call it a horror movie necessarily, but it is a good spooky movie.
Haunting of Hill House.
Oh, awesome series.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch it again.
We're going to have to watch it again probably. And I hate it because it's so fucking scary. It gave me nightmares for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Literal weeks.
I had nightmares, and I'm not one to be like, see something scary and get a nightmare.
So, definitely worth watching.
Yeah.
Frank just shit himself, and that's real scary, too.
I bet you could probably hear it in the audio.
Yeah, probably.
And Hocus Pocus.
Well, that's not really scary at all. It's
Halloween.
a Halloween movie.
Right,
it's still September.
Says the man that was like, I just want to Halloween everything.
That never happened. There's no recording of
like
that
the
anymore.
other day.
Nope, didn't happen. Okay, all right. Well, that's where we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for hanging out on the podcast with us.
Comment, like, subscribe.
Ring the bell.
Yeah.
Follow us on our social media. It'll be linked below. OMGitsJayPee, Frandle36.
That's me.
You can jump into the Discord. I stream on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday. We sometimes stream on the weekends. I don't really have a set schedule for the weekend right now because, I don't know. It's kind of just been
hard.
Well, it's been nice and like, I don't know, working out and everything just kind of gets in the way of. Yeah, whatever. I stream sometimes. Follow me over there if you want to. What else we got? Anything else? Nah.
Catch on the flip side, homies.
Catch on the flippity flop. I feel like we need a clever sign off line.
We'll work on that.
All right. For the next episode
of the WertCast.
Good sign off, honey.